Energy auditing. You have a pre-site work, you have a site work, and you have a post-site. Pre-site work is you get your energy bills, you try to map out the building, you try to find out where are the energy usage, try to collect as much as information as possible from the blueprints of the factory or residential house, talking over the phone with the managers. And the reason is because you have, what you do is with all of this information that you're collecting, you creating questions for yourself as well. When you go and visit the place, you're going to answer all of those questions. And then when you come back, you're going to do all of the calculation, basically, in another day. And usually, always allow at least 1 day for your visit. Energy auditing is not going to be a half-an-hour job. At the place, you're going to spend a day, sometimes 2 days. Sometimes you go back. Definitely for factories, you go back. So, pre-site work, basic, let's focus on the residential in this example. You got to know how is your building, what's the orientation of the building, what is the geographical location of the building, find out the bills that you have for the past 24 months, get the weather information from outside for the past 24 months, season-wise, and try to understand basically the relationship between your building and your bill. And graph the consumption, try to put all information you have on a graph. Graphical viewpoint of the billing is very important. A lot of companies do not do that. They just receive the bill, they just pay. And by putting the graphical, you are not going to believe how many times I basically put a graphical presentation of energy consumption, and I found there is a problem, and then we found that there is an energy leak somewhere. Because you can, when you look at the graphical presentation, you would see this is an off-season, and there is no production, or the factory is shut down for so many long hours, but why the boiler is working full-time 100%. When you go to find that there is a steel trap somewhere that is not working, and it's draining the whole boiler, and the boiler is keep working constantly, basically. So graphical presentation is very important. And by the way, you need all of those things for your report, because at the end of the energy auditing, you have to generate a report, and that report is going to give you exact details. So, in your pre-site task, you got to have a schematic of your building, orientation, what are the energy consumption units, where are they located, what is important for building. You always need to know what is the square foot that is livable, basically, is used. And what are the units that are generating energy, what are the units that are consuming energy, and rank them based on if they are electrical, if they are gas, basically, where are your meters, where are you measuring all of those energy usages, and all of this information, basically. I'm going to pass a little bit quickly. Okay. The reason the square foot is very important because for residential calculation of energy auditing, at the end of the day, what you have to do is you have to calculate all of the energy usages, electricity, gas, all together, divide it by the total square foot of the building, and create a number called Energy Use Index, EUI. There is a standard for EUI for different buildings. If your number is above that standard, something is wrong. Right? So you have to conclude that you need to do energy investigation, and you need to reduce that number. If that number is below or above the average number that is listed in different handbooks, then you're okay. If your employer wants you to do more in order to do energy saving, you can go further and continue your energy saving. When you do pre-site tasks, it's very important to distinguish between the areas that are conditioned in terms of air or the areas that are not conditioned. You might have a huge building, but 80% of that building is either storage or garage, right? You don't care about those areas. Those areas are not conditioned. However, in your print, you got to show them. So make sure always you know how much of that area is conditioned and what are the temperature that is required to operate for that area. Because if you're dealing with the school, if you're dealing with the hospital, if you're dealing with the shopping mall, they all require different temperature, right? You cannot assume always 72 degree Fahrenheit. It doesn't work that way. And there are handbooks, basically, that specify. One of the famous handbook is the ASHRAE handbook. And ASHRAE handbook has for every different location specification of a different temperature, basically. Can we talk about this kind of things? Okay. Now, after you do all of these things, it's the time to go have a site visit. As I said, plan to spend a full day over there. People who need to be involved in your energy auditing, first, the very first step is set up a meeting with the operation manager of the plant or building or whatever it is, right? And always meet the technicians as well, because those are the people who are running the operation day to day. They know exactly where are the leakages, they know exactly where are the deficiencies, they know exactly what type of problem they have with boilers or steam traps or other devices that they have. So you have to spend a lot of time with them as well. And specifically, if you are implementing at the end of the day some energy measurement savings, those are the people who are going to implement, the technicians basically. So technicians are playing a very important role in this matter. This is going to be a problem. So,
what's that?
You can probably turn down the backlight and make it last longer.
Can you do that? Yeah, turn off the backlight if you want to. You can see it only engineers, you know. We don't know how to do things.
Yeah.
You do?
Say no more.
oh, thank you very much.
Should extend it some?
Sure.
So,
So, I have to go fast.
You cannot use the charger on this at the same time that you give a presentation, right?
Right, no.
There's like one plug.
That's kind of ridiculous.
It should last for a while with it all the way down.
When you go for energy auditing, you got to make sure that you have all of the tools that you need. My case, I have a briefcase full of this stuff, basically. And things are very simple. Notebooks, calculators, flashlight. A lot of times, you're trying to read a meter or a nameplate on a motor, for example, and it's hidden somewhere. You need a flashlight to see how it works. Tape measure, thermometer, light meter, knife, camera is a must. And thermometers are, we're going to talk about them. There are different versions you can buy, but it all depends how basically extensive your business is. Talk about sitting with the energy managers. After that, after you collected all of the information, you go back to your office, you start doing the post cycle. The very first important thing you have to do is list all of the energy consumptions, list them from top to the bottom, and try to create a report, analyze your photos. Most of the times, I not only take photo, I also take video as well. Specifically, if it's an electrical motor, it's a fan attached to the electrical motor, and it's rotating, I take a video. And the reason is because when you look at the video later, you will see if there are deficiencies, if the fan wobbling, if the belt are not, working correctly. And those are all the source of energy losses. So typically the report that you're going to write is going to have these sections on it. It's going to identify all of the energy systems, evaluate the condition of the systems. Is the system new? How many years it has been working? What's the condition, right? And based on that, you try to come up with some recommendation on how to proceed and save energy.
Well, the question of the camera, are you using the SLR or using the infrared?
And depending on how expensive it could be. Usually just regular camera is good enough. Because what I have, in my case, I have thermometers that are infrared laser thermometers. So I measure temperature of every location basically that I walk around. So you really don't need to go close. This thermometer works up to 30 feet, right? So you can just point it as a laser beam and you can measure the temperature. So it's good enough. So your report must have an executive summary. 1 page to 2 pages. I always keep it limited to 1 page. Remember, your top manager who is going to make a decision about the budget that you're proposing for energy saving doesn't have time to read a 120 pages report. He wants to see everything in the first page, right? So make it look good on the first page if you want to get the business.